Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
In my groups in AmSpirit Business Connections, they're relying on one another to do things. And I always share the story that I have in all my years. My kids are grown now, but when kids are growing up, I never failed to pick up my kids. That was my commitment to my wife. I was going to pick up my kids. And so the point I try to make is listen, when you're committed to somebody and you care about them, you follow through. And people will laugh. I'm like, well, I get it. It's my kids. I would pick them up anyway, but when I need to get a gallon of milk or do whatever, shovel the driveway, whatever it is, I would be following through on that. And it gets me thinking on this because right now I've got this, my first book, Foundational Networking, is coming out or is out now. There's an Audible version of it, an audio book of it, I should say. And when you published through Audible, they give you free codes that you can give out so people can get the book and write you a review because that pulls you up in the algorithm. And so I've gone to people who are in my network, and I didn't just send it to anybody, but people I think who would really come through for me. And hey, would you do this? Yes, I'll do it. Well, great. Here's the code. And then it's like nothing because there's a dashboard on the back end you can kind of see. So I'm like, okay, now what do I do? I've got these people who've committed to doing something for me. And they're not following through. I'm sure there's a good reason. They're all good people. Don't get me wrong. But it's just kind of that. It's kind of well. Let me read you this post. And I'm going to introduce our guest here in a minute. In conflict, we know that fear can rear its ugly head. Fear of confrontation, fear of bringing tension to the workplace, fear of hurting workplace relationships. The list seems endless, and that's where I'm at. What do I do? What do I do? So at any rate, today I have on the program with me, I have Jennifer T. Long, and she's a master coach and president of What's Up, LLC. She works with managers, teams, leaders to perform and think more strategically. And she's the author of the book, Own Up, How to Hold People Accountable Without All the Drama. And then she has also got a podcast. I think it's Leadership Kung Fu. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, you heard my story. What do I do?
Right? Everybody has the story of, I was expecting this thing and somebody dropped the ball and, how do I get them to stick to the deal?
Yeah.
And it's right. It's the nature of when we get together and we want to do things, and especially in a networking environment, right?
Yeah.
Expectations are created, and that's kind of the whole deal behind meeting other folks and engaging with people is how you're creating expectation. Let's do this. Let's try this thing. And when people say yes, 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 and then don't follow through, that is always the big consternation. And when I talk about accountability, and as we put it back out and polish it up, because accountability always feels really tense. It always makes us anxious. It always makes us feel like, oh God, how do I start a conversation? And so I'm on this mission to make it less anxiety inducing and less troublesome, because really accountability is not about pulling somebody up and calling somebody out. And I think we all think of it in those terms, because when we get angry, we want to hold people accountable.
Well, and I think there was a time where that was the norm. I worked in corporate for a little bit, and it was like, who do I need to fire around here to? Okay, it still is. All right,
it's still the norm. And so there are some organizations who get it right, but it's really a practice around clarity, right? Was I clear? And are you clear on what you committed to? And so when you start to get a different, so I teach it as mindset, skill set, practice. And mindset is you got to shift thinking about it as calling people out and getting people in trouble, and think about it in terms of a practice around being clear. And When you do that, your ability to communicate with somebody gets a little bit easier. You're more willing to engage in a conversation that's not about calling someone out, but that is about, was I clear? That's a lot easier to step into. So that's why the mindset matters. And then when you're in those situations, right? Because the emotional side of communication is always present. People get defensive, people get upset, people,
Yeah.
right? And that I think is when we talk about conflict, what we're afraid of. And conflict by nature has an emotional tenor to it, right? So when you're in that moment of, hey, you know, my expectation when I sent you the code was that you were going to actually provide me with a review, and I'm concerned because you haven't done it yet. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Curiosity. Yeah.
Curiosity, because curiosity opens the conversation. And when you open the conversation, you give them an opportunity to tell you, right? Here's where I am. Here's what's going on for me.
Yeah. Like, well,
And
I tend to be like Columbo. I don't know if you remember the Columbo
yes, I
show.
do remember
Yeah.
Columbo.
Probably a lot of our listeners don't, but he was very adept at using just kind of a playful ignorance. Of just
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
help me understand.
Help me understand what's going on, right? And
Yeah,
so standing in curiosity and using open questions, right? Instead of here's what I need you to do, or you said you do this, why aren't you? Like, and when can you? Which
yeah,
feels more affronting, right? And then people feel like, oh God, I'm never going to commit anything to that guy again,
right.
right? And instead, when you say, is that something you're still willing to do, or where are you on that? Then people can say, oh, you're absolutely right. I did commit to do that, right?
Yeah,
Ownership, which is what we're looking for. You said you'd do this. Were we clear? Yes, we were.
yeah,
Then it becomes, what do you want to do? Right? I'm hoping you can still do it. I can't give the code to somebody else.
yeah, yeah. Well, what I tried to do on this, my particular situation, I asked them before I gave them the code, hey, this is what I need done. Would you be
Yeah.
willing to do it?
Yeah.
And told them if not, that's okay. I still love you, right? I mean, because we're all busy, we all have
You can say
things,
no. Yeah.
yeah. And it's not like a corporate environment where you have one person in accounts payable that needs to get this done because nobody else knows what's going on, right?
Right.
I've got hundreds of people in my network that I can ask, but I figured I would ask you. And and then so people came back. Some said no, it's great. At least I know. I totally know. And then people came back. Some didn't say anything, which bothers me a little bit. But anyhow,
Yeah.
some came back and say, yeah, absolutely. And many I've gotten the codes, and they moved heaven and earth to get it done. And shout out to Adam Connors and Terry Bean. I mean, they just went to the wall to try and get this thing done for me. They didn't.
Right.
I don't even have an Amazon account, but I'll do it for you. It's like, okay, great. But then I have the ones that it's like, oh man. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's always worth the follow-up to say, hey, I was really counting on you. I had an expectation you're going to do it. I'm concerned I haven't seen it yet. Talk to me.
yeah,
And talk
yeah,
to me is an easy invitation into where are you on that? And when is it something they can still do? Or can you call back your code and find
yeah,
somebody who's really more? But what it does is you really come in with, I'm really clear on where I am on this, right? Because accountability always starts with the person who made the expectation.
yeah,
And creating the space in a conversation, right? To say, here's what I was expecting. I'm concerned I haven't seen it. Tell me what's going on.
Now here's a question. That's my job to ask questions. How'd you get into this? I mean,
Yeah.
it's you don't go off to college and say, okay, well, I'm going to be an accountant. I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to coach accountability.
No,
So
I directed theater for 10 years before I did this. Um,
you
I
what? You were in theater?
directed theater.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's
Yeah.
almost a perfect segue for what you're doing.
Well, kind of,
Yeah,
because as a director, you are parsing the dialogue to score a script to get people on stage, right? And you're
yeah,
really mapping out what are essentially conversations. And I think part of the drive around accountability is that we all get frustrated when we show up in the workforce and we have to deal with people who aren't accountable.
Yeah.
And we get frustrated. And all of our accountability skills kind of start at home, right? How did your parents hold you? How do they keep your feet on the fire?
Yeah.
All that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
so we have an exposure to it that way. But when we get into the professional environment where when we're getting paid to perform, it becomes even more of an issue because we get way more irritated with people who don't do what they say they're going to do, or who come up short, or who go into victim and point fingers at other people when they can't show up with what they promised to do. So I think that whole part of my personality where it's like, damn it, people need to do this better.
Yeah.
And then I think 10 years of directing where you've got people who you're managing and working through a process, just it became an easy thing to pick up.
Well, I think there's a lot of value in it. I have told my kids as they go off and get into the working world, um, to just understand that people are reliably unreliable. I mean, it's just my wife and I are lockstep on, what you commit to something, you're going to do it. And that's how we were brought up, and that's how
Yeah,
we operate. And
yeah,
the kids, as they get out in the working world, are just like, I don't get this. It's like, welcome to the world. We have
right.
insulated you, not insulated you, but we have a different way of operating here, and not everybody has that way of operating. And you
Well,
need to,
and the internet culture has allowed people to just drop balls, right? The whole
yeah,
ghosting culture and I'm just not going to deal with this kind of thing, turn it off,
yeah,
blocking people, this kind of thing. When you get to real interactions, I think it can be surprising because it's wired into how we work. We're tribal people. Like when we show up together, we're all expecting you to do
yeah,
something, and it just becomes the nature of human interaction, especially in any kind of professional environment.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're all relying on. I shared this the other day with speaking at a group. None of us do anything alone, right? We
No.
all we all have. You have a podcast. You have somebody who's on that podcast helping
Hmm.
you, and you have people behind the scenes, and I have people here, and so on and so forth. So we're all relying on other people, and so accountability is it's it's ever present.
Ever present. It's a character building practice for everyone. And
Yeah,
when you don't engage in it and you want to slide around things, we all see it. We all see it. It's not anything you can really escape. And so that's why I want to get the whole, you know, uh, patina of punitive gone,
yeah,
because that's what holds us all back, right? If we all are just like, I want to help you. I got to be clear. Was I clear? Did I say what I needed to say? Am I holding or the unstated expectation? Because there's a lot of those, right? We all expect people to be forthcoming and transparent and willing and all
yeah.
these other things, but we never really say that. But we certainly get upset and disappointed when they aren't.
Well, I mean, there are certainly communication breakdowns. I might say do this, and they might have a totally different interpretation of what this. Well, I did it.
Right.
No, you didn't.
You didn't. Right. And so
Yeah,
the interesting thing is accountability is mutual. It's not that I just have to be very, very, there's a lot of books out there around it that say it's all about the expectation and you got to be really, really clear. And yes, and when you're on the receiving end of an expectation, if you're not clear, it's on you.
yeah,
Ask the questions. I don't understand, or here's how I'm interpreting what you're telling me. I
yeah,
just want to make sure I'm going to be able to deliver what you're really thinking.
yeah, yeah. What's the result that will satisfy you? Essentially,
Right.
is so.
Right. So when you gave your pals your code, right? Did they say what's your time frame on this and how fast do I got to move on this and how many hours is your book that I'm going to listen to so I can
Yeah.
map out my time? I mean, those would have been good questions from their end to say, what am I signing up for? As opposed to, oh, I really like him. I'm just going to accommodate this and then figuring out later, oh God, I have no time.
Well, you know what? That's a great point because I discovered as I was going along in this the way they do it on Audible is that people need to listen to 20% of the book before they can leave a review. So, I mean, the
Hmm.
book is 5 hours and 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
So, I tell them at 3x speed, you can get it done at 20 minutes or listen to enough to leave a review,
Right.
but all of a sudden, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'll do it. I'll just leave a review. Give me a link. It's like, well, it's a little more than that. So trying to give people an out, but let me know. My feelings won't be hurt. I get it. You're
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But here's the ask. Here's all the things I'm asking you to do. It could be this, could be this, could be 5 hours of your life that you're never
yeah,
going to get back.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, and people have come through. They have, and one person responded to me yesterday, thanking me for the opportunity to reciprocate that she could do something for me. It's like, oh, that really was nice of you to say that.
yeah.
Um, do you have a story that you could share? A story you could share, like a real world example of from your coaching experience of the power of accountability, how it's been transformative.
It is transformative. Once an organization or a group of people, a team of people, right? And I know your audience is all solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, smaller organizations and that kind of stuff and individuals. Um, setting ground rules around it, right? Being able to, because it's part of excellence in communication. And I think once a group of people all have a like mindset, so when I say, we're going to do this project together and everybody's going to be accountable, and let me explain what I mean when I say that, right? We're going to be safe with each other to be able to, when we don't understand, when we miss something, we're going to talk about it. We're going to have a conversation. And so, um, I've worked with so I work in big companies and I work in small organizations. And um, it's amazing how you can turn around productivity, build trust, and build team with the simple act of everybody getting on the same page around a concept. And I've had multiple people, it changes who they are as people in terms of how they lead their teams, in terms of
Hmm.
how they show up with their kids, and so what I'll tell you just from multiple stories, because I've been doing this 30 years, is I get a lot of, oh, Jen, I can hear you in my head. And I had this conversation with an employee that I've been struggling with, or I've had this conversation with my kid who's been such a struggle at this point in their life,
Hmm.
and it's changed the whole dynamic of how we talk to each other because it requires when you are the person who starts the conversation, you're the person who has the issue, and it's always yours until anyone else will take ownership of it. And so if I'm struggling with you, I have to be really, really clear on what that is for me. And so that when I bring you into the conversation, it can change the dynamic of the trust of that people want to know, they want to be clear, and they want to connect. And as soon as you can release your own stress around that and look at accountability as an opportunity to connect, it changes all your relationships. And it works at home and it works at work. And so it's a repeated experience with people who invest the time to say, I got to get better at this.
Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking of a metaphor I used, or analogy, metaphor, whatever. I wasn't great in English. Um, Talking about building momentum and pushing a car, and it's really hard to get that car started, but once you get it started, it's really easy to keep it going. And I can see this as being sort of a cultural development thing that,
Mhm.
hey, this is what we're doing now. So it's not okay, you got to do it once, now you got to push the ball back up the hill.
Yeah,
It's
no,
it's
it's a practice. It's like yoga, and
yeah,
the more consistent you are with your practice, the better you get personally and as groups of people when that starts because you set the tone, right, for
yeah,
the people if you're running the projects or what have you. And as you get more consistent, the benefits of it get bigger.
yeah.
So it is a game changer when you can master it.
Well, I'm just thinking aloud here. You you do it once, and then they're going to clarify more on the front end. This is where the productivity comes in, right? Because you're not having
Mhm.
to continually wait to get this thing done. It's, you know what? Jen gives this to me on a Monday. She generally likes it by Friday. I don't want to have that conversation Friday at noon and having to stay late. So I'm going to have it done on her desk Friday morning, done Thursday on her desk Friday morning, right? And you're not having to ask, and you're totally amazed at that point.
Yeah.
And so interesting. Okay, great. Let's shift gears and tell me about your business, Own Up, and I've got the book and the
Yeah.
podcasts.
Got the book, got the podcast, and Own Up is a collective of myself and of a bench of executive coaches, and we work in companies large and small, and we do coaching packages, and we do skills training and development. We do that live, we do that on the web, and we've been doing it for, I want to say 30 some odd years now.
Oh,
Yeah. So you can
yeah.
find us at accountability.com and see all the things we do. We work with people on strategic thinking, complex problem solving, all that kind of stuff. And accountability underlies all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I said, it's ever present. It's ever present. Best way to get a hold of you, they can go to the website own-up.com, right?
They can go to own-up.com. They can go to accountabilityatwork.com.
Okay.
And they can find me at jen.long@own-up.com.
Okay, great. I appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks so much. It was really fun talking to you, Frank.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.